It's interesting on the subject of politics. This is a question for both of you because I can't ask the person directly. It's actually bringing it back to Richard Meltzer, but it occurred to me that Richard Meltzer has probed into so many areas of American life and rock and roll life and so forth. One thing he's never really addressed head on, although Wade, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in any writing that I've seen, he's never really directly gone into politics. I mean, he's got some pieces that I would say are
Uh-huh.
political, like the piece about Rodney King and the LA riots. I mean, that's
Yeah.
essential reading.
Well,
But that's
with
a little more driven. I guess where I'm coming from is he's never like I looked in the index of A Horror Like the Rest, and I was like looking up Nixon, and there's a couple of references to Nixon. There's scattered references to Reagan here and there. But it would have been
well,
fascinating. Like he never did a Hunter S. Thompson type thing that I'm aware of, where he went on a political campaign. Or you're trying to say something, Wade. So maybe
yeah.
you have some counter
In
example.
in Autumn Rhythm in the introduction, near the end of the introduction, he says, "Oh, and if you voted for Bush, you can get your nose out of my book."
I love that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that was one thing. And then, recently, whenever we've spoken about politics, especially when Trump was in jail, it was just like he should be in jail, you know.
No,
So,
Richard is very centered as far as the same left-wing politics I think that I came from. He's just less resonant about it in public.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. No, I just think it would have been fascinating if he had sort of gone in, like, because the way he sort of did a foray eventually into like classical music.
Right.
But anyway, well, it's neither here nor there. Um, and I think of someone like Hunter S. Thompson almost as a model for that kind of, like following some politician. Like he would have been fascinating.
Hunter might have been a visionary in having the right solution to life on Earth in terms of suicide, because man,
Yeah,
he's escaping the horrors.
yeah, yeah.
Easy way out.
yeah, but there's medication to get through it.
Why I think in his case, I think he was a connoisseur of his own meds.
Well, yeah, I guess when you've run the gamut.
Yeah.
So, an observation about hallucinations from hell. I don't know if can configure this into a question, but um, it's just interesting. I mean, I think other people and you yourself have commented on, why you ended up, how you've been telling these stories for years and you decided it was just time to put them down in writing and so forth. And I think you said in the interview, the conversation you did with Meltzer and Dave DiMartino that like something like 90% of the stories are as accurate as they can be. But
Yeah.
my sort of thinking about it is it's interesting because like just the fact that you sort of hung around these people enough to sort of get the story down. Like not a lot of people do that. Like I feel like in my like, and I think there's a certain, I don't know if it's bravery or what it is, but I feel like in my own life, I've encountered like strange situations and strange people. And aside from the fact that I would never necessarily have thought to write it down in a story, most people like me would probably just get out of Dodge when they came across some of these weirdos and stuff.
Uh,
And but you stuck around. So what would compel you to kind of stick around
to,
these
a,
scenes
to,
just long enough to write the story at least? Or
to a fault, I'm a journalistic voyeur.
Hmm.
I love eccentricity. I'm drawn to it, like just like, flies to crap. And I that's the word on me if you talk to friends or stuff, that every lunatic in town is sort of a beacon to me because I find a fascinating sort of side that then they have a story to tell. And the other downside of it, of course, is when you get too close to those people, it becomes crazy. They're the when I was one of the stories that was born out of the called The Poet in the book was I was up in an upstairs coffee shop when I was teaching at UCLA and writing up lecture notes. And that's what I do. I can't work in quiet places and I have huge ADHD issues. So the more commotion and tumultuousness surrounding me, the more I can focus in on what I'm doing. I did my doctoral dissertation in a real grungy hellhole biker bar where they got this guy in chains who was named Baby, but he wasn't, will come up to me and goes, "Anybody bothering you, Doc?" And I said, "No, baby, it's cool." And he goes, "All right, you just let me know." That kind of stuff. I don't know. I just gravitated to that, and it supported me. And in the poet, I describe one story where I was being on my own, and all of a sudden, in the next room, and I could hear it clearly, is this group, and there was this guy that looked like the old Karate Kid master, and everybody was going around in a circle offering topics, and I mean, I guess that's what they were, and someone would say, spirit, and he would go, "That's a 6," and they say lesbians, and he goes, "That could be an 8." And then if this would go on and on, I describe it in the story, and I thought, what the fuck? And of course, everything stops. I have to listen to this. I didn't want to be a part of it, but I wanted to hear it, and I couldn't let go. And I thought, what is this? Some crazy group therapy? Is it a theater troupe? What the hell? And we just went on and on. And then the leader, this old man, leaves, and people are screaming, "Where'd he go? Maybe we offended him with our ratings." Uh, and then said, "Well, let's check the light post in the parking lot. That's where he likes to pee in the bushes." But he wasn't there, and they were disappointed about that. And then they heard some toilets flushing, in a sort of feverish manner. He's flushing toilets again. And, that stuff is just too good to let go of. I mean, in my mind. So I'm glued to that. There was an electric auto harp player that supported Rocky Erickson in the Aliens, and he's as much of a loon as Rocky, but a brilliant, I mean, just a genius musician, because he can play the auto harp and it could sound like Jimi Hendrix or Lou Reed on a dime, or he can create these really beautiful and dissonant counter melodies on it. I mean, just incredible. But he's a head case, and he's, I think, the leading recipient of OCD disability in the state of California. And I could go down stories. I didn't put him in the book because he's still alive and he's a dear friend, and I love him crazily. Uh, but I've he's another one I've been drawn to. And again, it's the kind of thing when he would stay over with me in my house in Santa Fe. It was fun. And then my wife would just have nervous breakdowns with him possibly accidentally burning down the house. And I mean, can I digress to one little anecdote?
Of course.
So this is a typical Billy story. Um, and I don't mean this to put him down. It's just, lovable. But he brought in this flux and a soldering iron because he was completely obsessed that in his vintage plywood 50s auto harp that he have cold solders in it. Because I brought him out because he's been on my solo records in the last 10 years. And he's, again, musically, he's phenomenal. So it was worth it. And my wife says to him at the time, like, whatever you do, don't leave the flux on the floor where the dogs can eat it, and don't leave the soldering iron on the wood counter in the kitchen. "Oh, Mindy, I wouldn't do that. I promise, whatever." And so we go to dinner a couple hours later, and we're sitting down at this pasta place with another couple, and he's sitting, he's a little older than me, and he's sitting between my wife and I at the time, and just like a little kid, and he's nodding his head, and I said, "Billy, what's going on?" And I said, "Why are you nodding?" He says, "Well, I'm really happy. I'm telling you, I'm really content, and I think we can enjoy our meal." And I'm thinking, "Billy, why shouldn't we enjoy our meal?" Because I know where this is going. "Well, no, there's no reason we aren't. In fact, the anxiety level of enjoying our meal should be down to the ground because we're going to have a good food and there's nothing to worry about." And red flags come up. I said, "And why would we worry about anything, Billy?" He goes, "Well," he says, when you say something's 99.8% certain, you can call it 100%. You can round up, and there's no reason to worry about anything." And I said, "Billy, where is this going?" And he goes, "Well," he says, "I'm 99.8% certain that I left the soldering iron off in the kitchen. And I'd say I was 99.4% certain I didn't leave any of the melted flux on the ground that the dogs could eat." And we just like going, "Oh my God." He goes, "No." He says, "I'm reassuring you. If I had said 83%, we could have a little problem. But 94.7 and 99.8, let's take it to the bank. Let's enjoy our food." My wife turns white and takes her car and races back home. He goes, "What happened? I was just trying to assure everybody because when the wife drives home worrying about the soldering iron and the flex, there's a 46% chance she could get into a head-on collision." And that kind of stuff. I mean, I so love that, and I want to be a part of it, and yet it's so aggravating and destructive psychologically. So the
Wow.
best way I can deal with it is be sort of an observer from as much distance as I can get to catch the story without having the trauma of being involved. Just following up real quick though on what we were last talking about in stories, this is sort of getting back to Meltzer too.
Hmm.
And one thing he inspired, he and Hunter Thompson, is two things: a sense of, irony that possibly shouldn't be things that shouldn't be ironic or situations, but they are. And two is the narrator or the person observing something from a distance inexplicably being involved in the situation and getting sort of immolated in some way without understanding why it happened or how to, extricate themselves. That kind of stuff I just love and eat up. And the one thing is I wrote a song, and I have a horrible track record of writing love songs, especially to women, that I think that's going to attract them to me. It's always sort of a nosedive. And there was one song on my latest record that's called "What Can I Do to Make You Love Me?" And one of the verses goes, "How can I feel you even closer? How can I find the right words to say? Our love is like a Jackson Pollock poster, so very close but so far away." And I thought that would really be impressive because I'm such a nerd. And I played it for her, and there's this long pause. I said, "Do you like it?" "Well, it has a nice melody, I guess." And I said, "Well, I want to write something that, reached out to you." She goes, "Okay." She said, "Let me ask you this. What's this Jackson Pollock bullshit? He just spewed and vomited color on a canvas. What are you trying to say about me?" And I said, "Well, it's ironic." And she goes, "I don't get that." So I guess I'm an anomaly in terms of, digging that kind of thing. I don't
Yeah.
get when people aren't. And that's, to me, that was very Meltzer. I mean, that's inspired me to be sort of in that position.
Another song that's in your repertoire, right? This is from Aesthetics of Rock, page 172. Barry McGuire's Eve of Destruction
Hmm.
presents a plethora of such words: coagulating, legislation, disintegrating, regulation, integration, etc. The very appearance of such serious subjects as war and racial stuff in a rock context is a denigration of their original significance. His absolute overstatement of theme renders disaster cool. His "don't you know we're on the eve of destruction" is so affirmative that one could feel comfortable with such knowledge. England's banning of this song is a really fine misunderstanding of how McGuire has rendered Weltschmerz trite.
Yeah.
Weltschmerz world wariness.
It's great. I mean, he's right on. And I do a cover of Eva Destruction now, and I add my own lines here and there. And one of them is what is it? My blood so mad feels like coagulating. This whole crazy world is so frustrating when senators and congressmen won't pass legislation. Well, that's from the song. When the truth as we know it is disintegrating, and thugs in black masks try to stop immigration, and you tell me, etc. You know.
Eve of
Yeah.
Destruction is such an interesting song in some ways because my sense of it, from what I've read over the years, is that, most critics and maybe a lot of music fans too, although it was a very popular song, obviously, but it has this kind of reputation as being, like grade B Dylan or something like that, right? Like almost like your ersatz Dylan or something, but it's still it is a great song, I think, for what it is. Like I turn it
Oh
up,
yeah.
comes on a
No,
shuffle.
absolutely. I mean, P.F. Sloan was a really talented guy and had never got the dues beyond Eve of Destruction for what he did. That was supposedly, I think, the first song he wrote that he sort of would bare his soul and felt that it was, from inside of him coming out that he had to express. He did a lot of, surf and other knockoffs for other people. Um, he and to me, the real Dylan of the 60s was Phil Oakes.
Hmm, that's interesting.
Yeah. And
Just like you're a big fan of Phil. I have to say, I don't know a lot of Phil Oakes' work. He's definitely a gap in
oh,
my
you should check him out.
knowledge.
He's a genius. I mean, he did the protest songs like Dylan, but a lot more vociferous and a lot more vitriolic. And at the same sense, he wrote these, you know, very non-political songs. One was called Changes that he was familiar with, that he was famous for, and a couple others that were just beautiful songs, and he had an incredible voice. Unfortunately, he was a hardcore bipolar one who suicided.
Mm.
We've talked to, sorry, go ahead, Wade.
Oh, nothing. It's just like, but you actually covered one of his songs too, at least most more recently, right?
Oh, really?
Which one's that?
Didn't you do like the Unknown Soldier or something like that?
Oh, no, no, I've done Remember Me,
Ah, right.
which was a song about World War II veterans. They're saying, remember me when the crosses are burning, remember me when the racists come around, etc.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I love Phil Oakes. I think he was, there's been several attempts, from what I understand, of doing a biopic of him, and one with even Sean Penn playing him,
Oh,
but
wow.
it's never come through. His
Wow.
brother Michael has the archives and all the film and music, I think, but it's locked up, and I'm not sure where it's going.
I'm just checking now my Aesthetics of Rock index because I couldn't remember if Phil Oakes made the book. He is listed there on
Hey,
one page. I don't have the book.
yeah, he did, but it's not Remember Me. And I do have it marked. Um,
Page 191 says, I think.
yeah, let's see.
He mentions an album and a song. What's the album he mentions?
Pleasures of the Harbor.
Right.
Yeah, right. That was another great song.
Yeah. And specifically the song Small Circle of Friends.
Yeah, that was the one he was known for the most, I think.
Oh,
That and
really?
that
Okay.
and Changes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it goes into descriptions of the Kinks, you know,
Yeah,
and it's about total rock fusion slash dissemination. So
yeah,
it's all kind of lumped together there.
Greg, you're
yeah.
a huge Kinks fan, aren't you? You're a huge Ray Davies lover, aren't
Oh
you?
yeah, no, I think Ray Davies is my patron saint of songwriting. It doesn't get, at least the 60s stuff, it doesn't get better than that. And once I was set out to do an interview with Ray, and I spent a month writing up 30 questions, one to show him what a disciple I was, two that I got the idea of where he was coming from and what he was trying to say, and I wanted to impress him because of that. And so I came with, back then you had a cassette recorder, and I became autistic. I had my mouth open and couldn't, I just completely lost it and couldn't say anything. I was so starstruck, which isn't like me. And
Wow.
he looked at me, and after I said, it's such an honor. And he goes, yeah. He goes, what are your questions? And I had a sheet of questions that I'm looking at. And he took them from me and started asking the questions to himself, which I thought was very generous,
That's great.
you know.
So
And
was that a cream piece or
it
something?
was it was supposedly headed in that direction, but it never got off the ground because of that. Um,
That's an amazing story, though. I
no,
love that.
I love Ray.
Like I don't, I feel bad for you, but I love that he took the
Oh
question.
yeah, no, he was very generous. I mean, he wasn't doing it to make fun of me. He says,
Yeah.
"These are great questions," and I was nodding. Yeah,
Wow. So
It-
he was that big to you. Like he was just that
oh yeah,
stature as
The Village Green Preservation Society, and
it's a great
uh,
album.
Something Else by the Kinks, and all those records, Lola and Arthur, were just you couldn't get better than that. Those were like the top of the food chain for me.
I got to ask you about one song, maybe my favorite Kinks song, "See My Friends."
Oh yeah, sure.
God, that is good. That just like can't get enough of it. Like
Oh no, it's
such
it's
a great
great. It's,
song.
again, it's observational, which I
Yeah.
love, and the flip side of that that I love, of course, is Waterloo Sunset.
Oh yeah.
you
Brilliant.
know,
Yeah.
and it's just beautiful song. And, you got to give those guys credit, and especially Ray for coming after, the 1965 punk rock, which is You Really Got Me and All of the Night and all that. And then coming up with sort of this British narrative of these beautiful melodies and again, distanced observations that Ray was really good at. Um, that's hard to do. I mean, if you're a songwriter or you're a writer at all in any sense, it's really hard to do to present a detached narrative, a detached description of something where you aren't involved because uh, you don't want to put your stamp on it. Your stamp should just be your description and let people get the idea and see and edit or be part of that observational process on their own. And that's that I love that. And I think, you know, um, all sorts of artists, writers and musicians and songwriters and all that. I mean, if they can pull that off, that's my cup of tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Meltzer was great at that. I mean, Richard had a cartoon sense of it sometimes, in terms of how he would describe things. But he was great at that. He was my inspiration in terms of not just wanting to write, but how he did it, it seemed effortless, how he would put himself in a position of anything he wanted. He could be sort of, um, upsetting. He could be provocative. He could be funny. He could be ironic, but he could do this, it seems, on just a hair trigger. And it's hard to do. I mean, it's easy to read and appreciate it maybe for that, but it's really hard to be on the other side of it and come up with it so that it is funny, so that it is
Yeah.
resonant with you.
To
Yeah.
actually do it. Yeah.
It took
Yeah.
years. It took years, but eventually I figured out it was like, wow, he's like he just perceives things incredibly well and can put it down very quickly.
No,
And
for the persona that he offers and you know, and I hate to use the word because it sounds really hyperbolic or pretentious, but he's very intellectual too in terms of how he could present things, and it's sort of a travesty that that was missed. I mean, he's to me, he's up there with, Burroughs and Ginsberg and all those people that were able to do that in a different way, but he did it in a pop art medium.
well,
I
even
agree.
it's like you went ahead and put it in the introduction too. Like he's in the pantheon, you know?
Yeah,
Al, former bandmate and legendary beat scribe. He's part of
yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, again, I mean, it was when I did that book, I wanted to do something that had maybe other than just true descriptions of crazy shit that happened around me. I wanted to have, and add sprinkle a little hyperbole into it. I wanted to have a drive, an energy, a beat, a resonance in terms of how it read. And again, that was very Meltzerian to me. He was very inspirational along those lines.
Back to what you guys were just saying about his kind of stature or whatever. What he was, I really liked what he had said in the discussion he did with you and Dave DiMartino. I think this is maybe the first time I'd heard him put it so bluntly, and I don't know what got around to that part of the conversation, but he basically described himself. It's like he landed on believing that he's a philosopher, and I
Right.
think that seems accurate to me. I mean, and I don't know anything. I know fuck all about philosophy, quite honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
really don't have the grounding, but I've said this to a friend of mine, and he's not a huge fan of rock writing to begin with, and he thought it was a completely ludicrous statement, but I do stand by it. I said, aesthetics of rock in many ways is my entryway into philosophy. And I don't just mean because he cites philosophers all over the place. That's obviously part of it, but he has a way of making you think through things that
Or
would sort
taking
of
you
match
down,
what my understanding of philosophy is, however lame my understanding might be. But
well, or reading him takes you down a road of destruction where you're following and following and following, and all of a sudden you hit a pit that he's brought you to, that's like, holy shit. I mean, it's funny and it's provocative, but it's sort of nasty at the same time, which I liked. I think, he's sort of the reinvention of, pop music, pop art Kafka
Yeah.
to some degree.
Philosophy was like the cutting edge of all thought about such things as creation, creativity, the artist, the audience, the art object. Just being able to look at all this stuff and get some sort of what's the word, jargon for even talking about it.
One feeling I got when I was reading Hallucinations from Hell, and this isn't to say it's imitative of it,
Yeah.
but the book I felt was kind of a kindred spirit in many ways was Gulcher.
Yeah.
Just the way he would kind of go into these situations and document them, and they would be quirky and they'd be funny, and sometimes the people would be weird, or just his perspective on them was weird. So I just found that, I don't have a question about it. I just found that it sort of occurred to me pretty early on that, oh yeah, I feel this is in that kind of that vein for some
Well,
reason.
for sure, I would be dishonest if I didn't say that was a major influence on wanting to do a book like this. And as far as format goes, I thought, that was a blueprint in terms of like, okay, how can you weave in and out of stories, and what would be the continuity that you would have from one story to the other? And then the answer is, well, Gulcher didn't really have any other than they were all tied together, by these sort of ironic observations or, conditions that he would put on things. So yeah, I mean, that weighed heavily on me.
So Wade, I don't know if you have anything else on your mind. I did think it would be fun to just quickly rummage through some of these issues of Cream just to kind of give you an inventory of what I found
Okay.
Gregg's work. And I think there's even a bit of Meltzer stuff sort of alongside it too. But Wade, did you want to, is there anything that was pressing on your mind before we just quickly sort of do a round the table on that or whatever?
I'm pretty happy with things. Yeah, we can move on.
Okay, great. And also I did want to just, I'm unfortunately not the owner of any Samoans records, but I am a pretty proud owner of this. So
Well,
399. I would have probably at this place called the Record Peddler in Toronto. It's,
well,
at the time Toronto was like a
after
punk store, and
at some point in the next few days, give me your mailing address and I'll send you the Samoans records.
oh wow,
Yeah.
very appreciative. Well, to hit you right back, you said you don't have many issues of Cream, so if you want some copies of some of the writing you did for them, I'm happy to
Oh, I
provide.
would I would really appreciate that.
Okay,
I mean,
we'll do a
there was
little trade.
one
That'd be fine.
there was one review I did, I believe, of a Black Sabbath record minus Ozzy, and it was terrible. And I did it as a Batman and Robin story, and I thought that was Billy Altman thought that was like the best thing I've ever done. I
Oh,
enjoyed
really? I wonder if that's in this stash. Like I said, I've probably got another 50 issues to just
it. Right,
rifle through. But let's go through these one by one. So this is May 1980.
right.
What my methodology, because I couldn't flip through every page. I basically looked at the index to see if you had done a profile or feature.
Okay,
If not, then I went to the record review section.
right.
Maybe
Okay.
there's some stuff I missed along the way, but you do
I
have
didn't
really
I
great.
didn't do many features. I did a
Okay.
Rocky one and three or four, I think.
Okay. Well, this is pretty great record review, actually. Of you probably can't see it. Lydia Lunch, 1980, the Queen of
Uh-huh.
Great. Cream had such great headlines. The headline is Cafeteria Gothic.
Uh-huh.
You seem to be pretty positive on the record, and I just have to mention the in the last paragraph, you actually do make a reference to Hepcats from Hell. So
Yeah,
you say,
Richard's radio show, which was
yeah.
great.
And you say,
Yeah.
not since the time Irene Forrest, part-time actress poet, seized command of R. Meltzer's LA Hepcats from Hell KPKFM radio show with stunning recitals and a cappella ritual singing, has a female chanteuse so demonstratively exuded the hideous and heartfelt pangs of existence evidence on this record.
I said that. Wow. Younger days.
Yeah.
You know, Cream gave me a wide berth of what they would tolerate me doing. I think the only thing um, that they edited and didn't print was the I did a review of the Tom Tom Club, Tina
Oh,
Weymouth's Fallout,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I like it now, and I didn't like it at the time, and I didn't trash it, but I wasn't very enthusiastic about it, and Billy liked them a lot, I think, so it just
yeah.
didn't make it. And the other one was Iggy Pop's Lust for Life. I think that was the very first review I did for Cream,
Oh, I gotta
and
find that.
trashed it, and I mean, I was a Stooges fan, never an Iggy fan, and it wasn't that. And I was a 21-year-old brat, and that just wasn't acceptable to me. And I feel bad about that now. Not that I like the record, but I wasn't very generous.
I feel like a lot of people who are really into the Stooges felt kind of disappointed by those records. I got into those records in reverse because of my age. So I
Uh-huh.
really liked Lust for Life and The Idiot. And I was a
Yeah,
big Bowie fan. That might be sacrilege to you guys. But I
yeah,
was a big
yeah,
Bowie
yeah.
fan growing up, so I liked that sound. And then I got to the Stooges. But my sense is that a lot of the people who, loved the Stooges in their prime. They got to was the Idiot was first, I think, right? And they heard it, and it was kind of this
I'm not.
synthesized kind of very processed sound and very mannered Frank Sinatra type singing, and they just didn't know what to
Yeah, I
do.
mean, I think he's okay at that, actually. It's just after the Stooges, he was so typecast in terms of being Iggy that it was hard to accept that someone culturally, that's kind of a cultural antichrist would sort of sit back and want to be a crooner and, sort of, MOR it.
Mhm.
Um, but in context, he's done that more. And I think he actually has an interesting baritone voice.
But
Yeah.
in the long light of things, the Stooges are definitely superior, I think. But anyway, go ahead, Willie.
Oh yeah, no, I flew to San Francisco in 2005 to see the reunion version with James Williamson, and he was remarkable. I mean, it was hard to imagine even saying that that was as good as the 1973 Whiskey a Go-Go version. But
Wow,
other than he had a little more energy back then, it wasn't too dissimilar. It was incredible.
wow.
Did you see the this interview with Iggy where he's on Australian TV and it's for the New Values album?
No, I didn't.
It's hilarious, he's just jumping all around and being crazy, and they're trying to ask him questions, and finally it's just like, could you please just pay attention, like answer a question? And it's like it's about Bowie, and he just turns right to him and he goes, he taught me how to compromise.
Ah.
That's
I never was a huge Bowie fan.
Yeah.
Ziggy Stardust I liked at the time, but all that stuff seems really dated now. And just to me doesn't seem to hold up very much, but that's just my take.
Meltzer did a fairly positive review of Hunky Dory, if I remember correctly. And he did
I like that record.
when I interviewed him in 2000, he said the only Bowie thing he could stand was the song Heroes. And then he said,
Okay.
but he said, but that's Eno, not Bowie, which is kind of a
Right.
fair comment in some ways. So,
Yeah, I always thought Bowie just milked it for, some sort of I don't know, for the character he would play, and that was sort of interesting because it hadn't been done at the time. But I think the novelty wore off pretty quick, and it just didn't stick. I do like Hunky Dory. I think that's a good
great
record,
record.
and I like Ziggy at the time, but it was just the rest of the stuff after that was just Aladdin Sane. It was just like, eh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on with some of these. August 1984, Chrissy Hind on the cover. And oh, this is an interesting one. Your review of Rush, Grace Under Pressure.
I don't even. I remember doing it. I don't remember what I said.
It's I'll send you a copy. I mean, there's no point in
Okay.
me trying to sort of read it out loud. You quote a lot of lyrics,
Yeah.
presumably because they're fairly absurd as
Right.
lyricists with the Ayn Rand thing and all that. But I think it's pretty clear that you think they're kind of ridiculous. But I think you write it in a fairly ironic tone. Like you don't just come right out and say this is ridiculous stuff, but by citing all those lyrics, that would be my sense of what
I
you're
was
thinking.
hired on by Cream and I think be a hatchet man. I mean, because
Mm,
they clearly tolerated it in the same sense. Billy Altman was my editor, and so he was the one that was really letting things go or not. But I did, what was it, the Bon Jovi album review, and I think I
oh,
called the singer Putz number one and the guitarist Putz face number two, and I just was just nasty and vitriolic without being very clever. And then the other one was the Who record, It's Hard.
yeah, I've got that here for sure, actually.
Yeah, and that apparently got so much hate mail that I asked Bill Holdship, who was my editor, I said, how much exactly are you talking about in terms of mail? And he goes, well, you ever seen the end of Miracle on 34th Street? I said, really?
That's great. That one's got a great headline as well. Who hum?
Yeah,
But
right.
it's a completely what would you say, accurate review because the Who were just so god awful at that point. Like
Oh, they were
terrible.
getting,
Like that 80s Who stuff is
oh, I
sickening
know.
actually.
Well,
Like
I
I'll
mean,
I'll take 80s Stones over 80s Who. Like the Who were terrible.
considering the energy and what they were about in the 60s, who would ever have applied an adjective like pretentious to them later on?
I
And,
know.
you know,
This is
Pete
a funny one too.
Townshend. Yeah.
From July 79.
Hmm.
Trick on the cover, and it's a Susie Quattro album. If
Oh
you
God, did I
you
get into
knew
trouble for
Susie,
that?
you panned the hell out of that.
I got Mike Chapman wrote a letter to me and said that he produced Blondie as well and that record, and he said, your writing really isn't that clever. He says you're better off chopping meat.
Was that the first Susie album? Which
Oh, that's later in her career. Like, 'cause
It was
she
later. It
was
was
releasing
terrible.
records in the early 70s. And I think
I
you mentioned she had a hit around this time, Stumbling In,
Yeah,
which you
yeah,
mentioned. Like she kind of is one of those people who was around in the glitter era, but then she kind of hit pay dirt in the new wave era, sort of, right? So
right, right, yeah. No, I don't know. It depends, how
pretty lame,
spicy.
I'm pretty sure. But
Depends how spicy the food I was eating. Depend on how vitriolic I would be. I guess I don't know.
Blondie again, they're on the cover of Cream a lot, I think.
Right.
July 1981. Oh, well, here you go. This is the feature. We don't need to talk about it because you
Oh yeah, right, right. Yeah.
there's your rock. Now I was thinking though, so this is 81. Like that must have been a pretty like significant piece for Rocky Erickson circa 1981. I mean, I don't think a lot of people were talking about Rocky Erickson.
No, I mean, actually, I believe, and I could be totally wrong, but that was one of the first major features on him in a national music magazine.
Yeah,
And Cream was pretty large in terms of readership. And
yeah.
Um, I followed him around from 1975 to 1980, and I mean, I that band was so good. The Dwayne Slaxon, who was the lead guitarist, was the most. He looked like a young Keith Richards and played the most fluid leads that would sort of back up the harmonies of Rocky. It was just so incredible. And Billy was playing electric auto harp, and he was amazing. It was more than just Rocky. I mean, Rocky was great and the voice was incredible, but the whole band together was just unbelievable. And I would follow them. I lived in LA, but I would fly up to San Francisco in the Bay Area all the time to follow their shows. Um, and then there were times I became a pretty close friend to Rocky, and he was living in San Francisco, I think in 78 or something. And one time I went to his door, and if you knocked on it, and I'd done that many times. And if you went to visit him at where he lived, at his flat in San Francisco, he would shout out, "Who's there?" And you say, "Rocky, it's Gregg." And he goes, "You got a horror present for me?" You always said, "Bring him a horror present." And I said, "I do, Rocky." He goes, "What you got?" And I said, "A gun." "A gun? Does it have bullets in it?" And I said, "It's a plastic gun, Rocky. It's a toy." "I don't care. Does it fire?" And then I go inside and he's telling me, I know you appreciate hit music on the radio, Turner. He says, and I got one for you. I wanted to save this for you. It's a new one and no one's heard it yet. I said, what's it called, Rocky? Now, this. I haven't done this before. It's really got a commercial angle to it. I said, what? He goes, all right, the title is There's Nothing I Like Better Than a Severed Head Bouncing Down the Stairs. I said, oh, that'll do it. That'll get the airwaves going, Rocky. You know. But I would hang out with him all the time with things like that. I could go with 90 million stories of stuff like that. But I
Wow.
loved him. He was the sweetest guy and crazy. And again, drawn to him like a fly for just being eccentric and brilliant and talented and all of that.
Wow. Well, and kudos to Cream for printing stuff like that. I mean, they did so much great stuff around that time. So
Well,
Blondie
it was
again.
the editor Dave DiMartino and Bill Holdship that really
I was going
took
to
it.
ask you. So you said you dealt with, was it Billy Altman, the person you mostly dealt with directly, or?
Yeah, when I was writing album reviews, he was the LP editor.
Oh, okay.
And Bill Holdship and Dave DiMartino were prime. I wrote from like I think it was 76 to 88, and in the latter years, Holdship and DiMartino were my editors, and they're great people. I still am in touch with both of them, and they gave me a pretty wide berth of letting me do things.
Yeah, that's great. This one from June 79. I think probably another pretty terrible album, although this group did sort of maintain a little longer than some people give them credit for. But the Beach Boys, it's an album called LA, Light Album. And
Did I do that?
yeah, and your kind of running riff in there is you keep referring to them as the Beach Men.
Right. Well, I confess I don't remember what I thought of the record, but I'll tell you, Brian Wilson is a genius,
Oh
and
yeah.
I was enamored of him and his musical ability always. I don't remember that specific record
Well,
even.
and this is 79, but it was only a couple years before that they did that great album Love You,
Right. Yeah.
right? So they were
Yeah.
still sort of, they weren't
Yeah.
completely, no pun intended, dead in the water. But I mean,
No, no, no.
this one is Jan 78. It's not you actually, but I pulled it out because I came through it in the stash. It's Meltzer reviewing Rod Stewart, Footloose and Fancy Free.
Mm.
I found this one a little confusing actually, because I actually was genuinely sort of confused as to whether he liked the record or he didn't. I mean, you can often say that about his writing, but it seemed like he really did like some of it, but that just kind of surprised me. I don't know if he was being fully ironic there. Maybe I just didn't read it closely enough.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
I mean, Rod Stewart in 1978 was not exactly doing the kind of music I think
I
Meltzer was doing.
loathe Rod Stewart.
Loathed,
Loathe.
even the early records.
I can't stand his marketing of himself as this sex symbol, and I hate that kind of narcissism.
But like even like Maggie May or something like that. You
I
did
hate Maggie May.
really, eh?
The early face is okay. I mean,
Yeah,
there was some okay stuff, but when it got to the point where this narcissism crept in, I mean, that to me is the most repulsive aspect of pop music is when people start taking themselves seriously as a hero or as a sex icon or
sex
Jesus
symbol.
Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Okay, January 1980. Talk about new wave, Joe Jackson and the Knack.
right.
And you're reviewing this
Oh,
one is of a Scorpions record, Love Drive.
did I like it?
Scorpions record with the terrible cover with the guy grabbing
Yeah,
the woman's breast. It's like like
I
body
probably
or
didn't.
something. No, I'm pretty sure you no. Your last line is a modern phenomenon, no doubt under close scrutiny by the Stigwood brain trusts of this age. Reference to Robert Stigwood, obviously.
Okay.
So
I sort of remember that.
that was good. John Cougar Mellencamp on this cover. So this is later, December
Classic.
1987, and Cream was still kicking around. I don't know, would Billy Altman have still been around at that point? Do you
I
remember?
think so.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure until the whole magazine tanked. I
okay.
could be wrong.
This is one I actually really want to read. Like it was too long for me to sort of wade through it last night because it
Yeah.
actually seems like you're trying to write something substantial here. But it's bizarre. It's like three Monkees records. I think
Mm.
two of them are maybe reissues, and one is like a new live album, or no, an album called Live 1967. So obviously it's a live
Right.
performance, and then something called Missing Links and Pool It. And I think you're kind of mocking them, but you're sort of writing like you are saying a lot of stuff about the monkey. So I kind of like to read that one. I didn't really.
I was saying stuff about the monkeys reviewing John Mellencamp.
No, no, no. Sorry,
That was just
John
the cover.
Mellencamp is just the cover subject.
Okay.
Your
I
review
really
is of
liked
the,
that. I
but it's
love
a
that.
substantive review of a monkeys. It's almost a two-pager.
Okay.
So
I don't remember that at all. I love the Mellencamp record, the one with
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great
In
record.
fact, Saunders and I got
Great record.
together and did this sort of Carter family folk revival, and we called ourselves the Sons of Mellencamp. And we
Oh
did
wow.
this funny take on Jerry Garcia called "Dope on the Scarecrow." And when Cream came to LA, they had a welcome to LA party, and we played. And Bill Holtship, I think, got in touch with Coogie, John Mellencamp, and said, "Your sons are going to be here." And he told them about it. And Cougar said, "Oh, well, tell my sons I really apologize for not being there. I hope they behave themselves." And Ozzy came by, who was there at the end, and told us he really liked, the stuff. He goes, "He should be flattered. You're his sons."
Wow. Wow.
So that was a
Great.
high point.
Didn't
Come,
Mellencamp also get into the Mistaken a little bit, if I remember correctly?
Yeah,
Uh,
so the Mistaken was in 1987. So the Samoans were still going, but I had moved to Claremont for graduate school, and it was a little college band that I put together with this girl drummer and a bass player, and we were goofing around, being pretty humble, doing like we did a version of the Velvet's Venus and Furs with a vacuum cleaner solo, and fun stuff like that. It was, and then we got Saunders to be a part of it, and there was a record that came out. It was just re-released by Triple X, um, and it was like a 6-song EP that I think was really came out well.
cool. Uh, July 1986. Prince on the cover, and you review. Oh, Blue Oyster Cult, an
Club
album called
Ninja.
Club Ninja.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, a later record by them, I guess. I don't know if that's any good or not, but
Did I like it?
um,
I think you said something along the lines of, as far as facsimils go, it's pretty good.
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
And
I was
You mentioned Sandy Pearlman, and a few times actually.
he was a very close friend of mine. So if I reviewed BOC, it wouldn't be anything terrible.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, let's see. I'll rifle through these because we've only got a few minutes. February 1981. And
That
this
was
one you've
familiar.
got, oh, this one's hilarious. Just like the subject matter itself, I think is madness. Remember madness?
God. Yes.
Madness, absolutely. And I think you pretty much trashed that.
Right. That was my Trump suit there.
Yeah, you actually make a Doobie Brothers comparison, which is kind of funny. So
God. Speaking of,
yeah, July 1980. Um, Ray Slick.
yeah,
Ouch.
I'm sure it was a terrible album she must have put out at the time.
yeah, I
Called
know.
Dreams. I don't know. I mean,
She's like what,
she's
84,
amazing in
80?
Jefferson Airplane, though. I mean, I love
She's like
that.
85 now.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, she's still going strong. I give her credit for that.
Oh, and were you a fan of Jefferson Airplane? Early Jefferson
Early
Airplane?
Jefferson
Yeah,
Airplane.
early
Yeah.
Jefferson
I
Airplane. Yeah.
liked Bathing at Baxter's, and I liked the first record, Crown of Creation, and and I liked how could you not like the sort of punky sound of Somebody to Love?
Oh, yeah. No, she was an incredible singer.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
November 1980. Pete Townsend cover this. Maybe this. Oh, this is bizarre. This one. This is a feature on a band. That guy. This is talk about like where are they now? Secret Affair,
Oh my God.
a band that just like
Oh, that was,
did
I remember
nothing in
that.
the U.S. at all. Like, like
Yeah,
I was a huge new waver at this time. Like I was 16, and I
yeah,
knew of them, and I didn't know a single person who bought their record. But they were kind of hyped for a few months for some.
yeah. Well, Cream did a lot of stuff where they were fed storylines or feature lines to do from record companies. It must have been where that came from.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? We're just down to the wire. We've got one left and 1 minute left to go. Oh, here you go. This is your who hum.
Right.
It's pretty great. I haven't
Yeah.
actually read the review yet, but I mean, that's just such, I don't even have to go on about it. It's just such an atrocious period for those guys.
I'd love to find the Batman and Robin Black Sabbath review.
Yeah, I'll go through more of my stash. Like I said, I devoted a couple hours to this
Yeah,
process, but I've
I
got like another huge stash in the same easily accessible.
I'd gladly trade you copies of that stuff for the whole Samoans catalog, and
Great.
I'll send you a Mistaken record too.
Sounds brilliant. Listen,
Okay.
guys, we're really down to the wire, so thank you both a ton. That was a blast. Hope you guys.
Thank you. I really enjoyed myself. Thanks for the interest. I mean, it blows me out. I never would think X decades ago that I'd be talking with people about in a very scholarly way about Meltzer. It's just it's
Well, my
great.
old man's a fatso or something.
Or my old man's a fatso.
Yeah.
It's great and unexpected.
Always edifying.
Well, my blood's so mad, feels like coagulating. This whole crazy world is just too frustrating. When senators and congressmen won't pass legislation. I don't believe in Star Wars. I don't believe the president. Don't need to read the papers. The truth is too evident. The whole human race blown out to space. And you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, no, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. No, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.